The Drifter of Red Mesa. The twin suns of Keshara never truly set. They only bled out slow and sullen until the sky turned the color of fresh liver, when the ore freighter Iron Pilgrim finally killed her engines and settled on the cracked pads at dry wells. The heat rose in sheets you could almost lean on. A single man stepped through the belly hatch. Tall, raw-boned coat the same red-gray as the dust itself. A long pulse-carbine rode his back like it had grown there, and at his heel moved a black drake the size of a small horse, 6 legs folding and unfolding without sound. Eyes the flat yellow of old gold. Folks would later swear the beast grinned. Cade Rann had no kin, no credits, no destination. Just the clothes on his back and a silence that made other men talk too loud to fill it. A half-circle of riders weighted by the water condenser's coarse stock mostly, heavy world breed, bone ridges along their brows, shoulders wide enough to block out a sun. Their foreman, Traver Keln, leaned against a mooring post and worked a strip of smoke-drake jerky until it was soft enough to spit. Fresh off the boat, Traver called, voice thick with dust and cheap cactus spirit, "Leave the mount, stranger. Walk away while you still got legs to walk with." The Corps laughed the way hyenas laugh short, wet and certain of meat. Nightshade's ears flattened to his skull. Cade rested the fingers on the Drake's neck and looked at Traver the way a man studies a fuse that's already burning. "I don't trade what's mine," Cade said, soft enough that every man there leaned forward to hear it. "When you're ready to die for your mistake, you let me know." He never raised his voice. He never needed to. The biggest Corps reached mistake. Cade's hand moved once quick, economical, the way a man swats a fly. The Corps dropped like a sack of ore, jaw hanging wrong. The rest stood frozen, hands twitching above holstered weapons that suddenly felt very heavy. From the ridge road above the pads came the clatter of talons on stone. Matriarch Seryn Valen rode down alone on a pale silver drake, white hair braided tight as law. Dust lung had hollowed her cheeks, but her eyes still cut like glass. "You handle men the way some handle knives," she said when she drew rein. "My spread bleeds water and good hands both. Ride for the Valen brand drifter, and you'll eat at my table till the sun's burned cold." Cade touched his fingers to the brim of his battered hat. "Obliged, ma'am. I reckon I will." The Valen Hydrodome rose out of the Red Mesa. Like a green cathedral and held 3,000 acres of corn and apple and real grass. All of it paid for in blood and water credits. Outside the transparent skin, the land cracked and bled rust. Inside, children ran barefoot and laughed loud enough to make a man believe in something. Lira Valen, Seryn's niece by marriage, taught school in the dome's long hall, tall for a Talon woman, skin sun-bronze, eyes the color of new silver. She believed books could civilize a world faster than carbines, and she meant to prove it, one stubborn child at a time. The first time she saw Cade Rann, he was carrying a 14-year-old homestead boy whose family had been caught outside the dome when the dust-wraiths rose. The boy lived. The parents didn't. Lira helped Doc Pema, so the boy closed, then turned on Cade with fire in her voice. "You bring death with you like a shadow," she said. "Ma'am," Cade answered, washing blood from his hands in a tin basin. "Death was already riding this range. I just keep it pointed the other direction." Spring turned to high summer. Cade took the wildest crews and made them proud. He rode the far lines where the dome-esque skin thinned and the wraiths could taste heartbeats through the dirt. Homesteaders who'd lost everything began to sleep without one eye open. Fewer empty saddles came home. But every credit Cade saved the ranch. Traver Keln stole twice over. Water vanished. Wells on the outer claims were poised with alkali salt. Whole families disappeared, their domes cracked open like eggs. Judge Howrick held court in dry wells and called it the harsh cost of settlement. Everyone knew the judge's robes were lined with Valen water turned to Traver's profit. One night the smaller sun was down and the larger one hung low and ugly. Lira found Cade on the north ridge, coat open to the wind, staring across the broken lands. "You ever think of putting the gun away?" she asked, voice softer than the wind. "Every day," he said. "Then I ride past another empty homestead and remember why I carry it." She stepped close enough that he smelled apple blossoms in her hair. and when the killing's done." He looked at her, then really looked the way a thirsty man studies a spring he is not sure is real. "That's a country I ain't mapped yet, Lira." The breaking came on the night of the harvest dance. The saloon inside the dome was loud with fiddle and drum. Travor had been losing at cards and drinking harder than usual. When Cade walked in, the room quieted the way water stills before a storm. Travor stood, swaying, face ugly with drink and old hate. "Tomorrow," he shouted so every soul could hear at dusk down outside the main lock. "You show your face, drifter, or I'll brand you coward from dry wells to the rim, and every man here will know it for truth." The silence stretched until it hurt. Cade finished his drink, set the cup down gentle as a prayer. "I'll be there, Travor," he said, voice carrying to the back wall. "And when the dust settles, one of us will be branded permanent." Next evening the big sun bled itself across the mesa, and the wind came in hot off the deep desert. Outside the main airlock, the street was nothing more than packed red clay between two walls of basalt. Men and women lined the walkways, faces pressed to viewports. Judge Howrick stood on the saloon porch wringing fat hands. Doc Pema stood beside him, chewing an unlit cigar and looking like he wanted to spit. Cade walked out alone. Coat open, pulse-carbine low on his thigh, black hat pulled down against the glare. Nightshade waited at the far end of the canyon, reins dangling, watching with those flat yellow eyes. Travor had 4 guns with Himcore hard cases who'd killed for pay on half a dozen worlds. They spread across the street like wolves. 5-1, Travor sneered, voice carrying on the hot wind. "Even a ghost can't outrun that many needles." Cade said nothing. He just kept walking, slow and steady, boots raising little puffs of red dust with every step. 50 meters, 30, 20, Travor's hand twitched. Coward's move, he went for his weapon early. The pulse-carbine came out of Cade's holster like it lived there. 5 white lances crossed the dusk faster than thought. For core dropped without a sound. Travor took one in the shoulder and spun, screaming, carbine flying. The street went dead quiet except for the wind. Travor crawled in the dust, leaving a red trail. "Mercy," he croaked. "I yield." Cade stood over him, smoke curling lazy from the carbine muzzle. "You stole water that belonged to children," Cade said, voice flat as a frozen lake. "You burned domes with families inside. Mercy ain't mine to give. This is the wage you earned." He turned his back on the dying man and walked away. No one moved to stop him. Inside the dome that night the harvest lights burned brighter than anyone could remember. Water flowed free again. Children ran laughing through grass that would stay green. Lira waited for him on the same north ridge where they'd stood before. The big sun was gone now. Only the small one hung low, painting the clouds the color of fresh blood turned gold. She didn't speak until his boots stopped beside hers. "Will you stay?" Cade ran. He looked out across the Red Mesa, across canyons that had swallowed good men and bad, across a world that took and took until someone stood up and said enough. Then he looked at her, and something gentle moved behind those quiet eyes. "I reckon a man's got to put down roots sometime," he said. "This ground feels right." Far off, Nightshade bugled once a wild, free sound that ended in something almost like contentment. And on Keshara, under alien stars and to mismatched moons, the drifter hung his gun above the hearth, married the schoolteacher, and taught a new generation that courage and kindness can wear the same face. The Red Mesa kept its secrets, the dust-wraiths still hunted in the dark, and water was still life. But for the first time in a long while, the good folks of Dry Wells slept easy. Because some men are born to stand between the storm and the ones who can stand at all. And Cade Rann had finally come home.